Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explain series. We are very happy to see the response of the students in the comment section and the response in general. I want to address your doubt that we will be continuing with the series till 2021 and beyond. So no need to worry that we'll be stopping the series in between. That is not going to happen. I went through the comment section and there was one doubt which one of the student had asked, which was regarding the arrest of activist named Stan. So with regards to his arrest, he has been charged under the UAPA and has been detained under judicial custody. So it is not a preventive detention, but with regards to a specific case, which has been stated that the 2018 Bhima Koregaon riots, he was involved in that. The investigation is going on. Nevertheless, he has been arrested in judicial custody. So it's a court order. His hearing and whether he'll be released or what will happen will go on. So we'll keep an eye on that news. Moving on November 17, with regards to, there is one big news regarding COVID-19 again. There is the news. So we over the past 1 week, we had considered the efficacy report of the Pfizer vaccine and the Sputnik 5 vaccine by Russia. Today, the efficacy report of Moderna pharmaceutical company from United States has come. So we'll be discussing this. Moving on, there is the news, there is speculation that the winter session of the parliament might not take place. There is only 3 times in the past that has not happened: 1975, 1979 and 1984. So we'll be keeping an eye on this. Whenever it is announced, we'll discuss this news article in a little bit more depth on the constitutionality of it. Then there is news regarding campus town of Delhi, how it is deserted because online classes are going on. Not so relevant from CLAT perspective, all the general news also with regards to crime. Again, there is positive news in Kolkata that pollution level in Kolkata has been on wane because of the strict following by the people of the NGT cracker ban. So that is good news. Then on the editorial page, so we'll be covering the top 2. I will address what is there in the bottom 2 also. But first of all, in a gist of why the main editorial is relevant for us. So as you know, in CLAT 2020, there was a question about Rafale and there were a little bit more depth about the aircraft and what it is. So precursor to the Rafale, why Rafale becomes a big deal is what in part this article explains, and also why is this article relevant is to explain to you and for you to understand that, see, India's military arsenal is not perfect. There are certain imperfections about it. There are certain gaps. Those gaps regarding the Pulwama and Balakot airstrikes is what is being considered. So there are gaps. That becomes part of your analysis that, see, there are gaps that the military will try to fulfill. How are they fulfilled and through what medium, which acquisition of which military equipment through which they are fulfilled becomes important. And for you to really remember them, because as you know, India is a huge country, there are so many other issues, but for you to really understand and remember without mugging up them for a long time is to understand the psyche. So if you know the gaps and then you know ki, okay, India has acquired this, and then I am going to tell you ki, see, this is how this equipment, this submarine, this aircraft is filling this gap. So then you can fill in the blanks there, and that is how it is going to get etched onto your memory. So keep an eye on this is what I'm going to explain right now. So first of all, it says that, see, post the Balakot airstrikes, the main concern of the Indian Air Force was that it came out second best in the dogfight between F-16s of Pakistan and the MiG-21 of India. So MiG-21 is an old aircraft, and also the F-16s are highly maneuverable. India had to count its losses more than what Pakistan had to count. We lost one of our aircraft. Our pilot was captured. Thankfully, he has returned. So that part aside, it should not happen in any case is what this article is about. That, see, if India aspires to be a big power in the region, if we are to have a fear factor within our enemy's mind, those gaps need to be fulfilled. That is exactly what the Rafale aircraft does. Rafale is a highly maneuverable aircraft because see, it can move from up and down, left to right. So those kinds of things which the MiG-21s and the Sukhoi 30 MKI cannot do. So that is one gap that fulfills. The second is how on that same day Indian Air Force shot down its own fighter helicopter. So that kind of incident, that there was a communication gap, and how that took place and led to losses. We killing our own soldiers is the worst thing that can happen to us. So those kinds of communication gaps should be addressed at the foremost. Then is the incident of J&K police officer Devinder Singh. Devinder Singh is a police officer who was named by Afzal Guru before his hanging. He said that Devinder Singh was the go-to person of ISI and militants with regards to any trouble or troubleshooter for them in India itself. So an insider. And then he was caught transporting two militants. So those kinds of internal security matters are also need to be addressed on primacy. And the article states that see, all these concerns are only possible to be addressed when we take a step back from the political high pitch. What happens? Politicians, their idea is to maximize their seating arrangement, their power when elections are taking place. But analysis and in-depth improvement of these things, they take time. They cannot be done at high-pitched levels. So we need to take a step back from the political high pitch and then understand these concerns. Now, on the left-hand side about the RCEP, it states that see, India has decided not to get inducted in the RCEP, but now that decision seems a little bit more debatable. The reason why is that see, most of the countries who are out of the COVID crisis are in Southeast Asia, China, Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, countries who have done better at handling the COVID-19 pandemic. And the European countries with whom we trade more are the ones who are going back into shutdowns again, still have a lot of trouble with regards to how to resolve the pandemic. So in that regard, if we want to push our economy, then RCEP seems to be a one stop for all our troubles. So in that regard, the article says that see, India needs to do something about it. And then moving on the left hand side is about Bihar. That is not so relevant for us at all. And this needed a policy framework in step with technology. Now what this article analyzes how data has become really important, and that we need policy measures to understand different regulations of, because technology is now linked to different sectors of the industry, of the economy, and if it is left unregulated, it could cause a lot of problems. Now there is no real concrete policy suggestions that is talked about in the article, or any law that is being analyzed like the data protection law. If that would have been the case, this would have become more relevant for us. Now, on the left hand side of the op-ed page, there is this constitutional debate with regards to equity and high growth. Now, Telangana was separated or bifurcated from Andhra Pradesh on the grounds that there is a lot of regional bias, that regional development, some places are getting left behind. But when the bifurcation eventually took place, Chandrababu Naidu, the CM of Andhra Pradesh then, talked about a greenfield world-class capital city of Amravati. So he was like, this will be one-stop city for all the problems. And then the YSR Congress government of Jagan Mohan Reddy has come, which has stated, see, the purpose of bifurcation was to address regional gaps, and through his model of 3 different capitals, we'll be able to address that. That executive, legislature and judiciary will have separate locations that will eventually evolve all the different regions of the state on a same parameter. So that is a challenge that is now taking place with regards to these constitutional scheme. There is also direct question with regards to the capital city of Amravati, the legal challenges of contracts, all that is happening. But from a CLAT perspective, from legal perspective, these principles of high growth versus equity, of equality within itself, and then other things regarding growth, uh, that becomes relevant for us or as CLAT aspirants. On the right hand side is the article about the employment of women in India. Now we'll be talking about this in a little bit more depth, because there are certain uh, indexes that this is talking about, reports that become relevant from GK perspective. On the bottom left is the article about journalists and how journalism is the most dangerous profession in the world, with on every 4 day one journalist is killed. So that makes the profession, and then there is a specific need of the hour that there should be a specific legislation to protect journalists. Maharashtra has one, and then Chhattisgarh is finalizing one. So in that regard, the article says more steps need to be taken to protect the journalist. Then there is the news about GAIL completing a gas pipeline from Mangaluru to Kochi. It is a 444 kilometer long gas pipeline built by GAIL, Gas Authority India Limited. So that becomes relevant. Rest everything is not so relevant. On the same page, there is nothing for all politics, local, regional news, not so relevant for us. With regards to again Pakistan raising questions about India trying to evoke terror in the region of Gilgit-Baltistan, nothing much more rhetoric, continues to be the same thing, not so relevant at all. From CLAT perspective, then there is the news about Barack Obama's new memoir, The Promised Land. It is getting released today as I'm talking. So in that he has praised our ex-Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh for his knowledge, composure, compassion, empathy, eye for details. As you know, ex-Prime Minister Manmohan Singh is a renowned economist across the world. He has seen all and done all, being a part of RBI governor, finance minister, then planning commission, and then going on to become the prime minister for 10 years. So that is a hell lot of experience, knowledge that comes when you're in position of power for so long. So Barack Obama has dedicated quite a few of his memory in the pages in the memoir about that. So the name of the book, and Barack Obama, as you know, is the first black president, the only black president of the United States till now. So those things become relevant. The name of the book becomes especially relevant, The Promised Land. Then there is not much news in the sports section or on the international front. Will cover this conflict between Ethiopia and a plausible civil war about to break out there. So we'll discuss that. Then there is, so diving into the more detailed news now. The first is the Moderna vaccine. The efficacy report says the vaccine is relevant for, is effective on 94.5%. Now, what is the vaccine? It is again a messenger ribonucleic acid vaccine, mRNA, just like the Pfizer vaccine. Now, at what temperature can it be kept? Minus 20 degrees, better than minus 70 for the Moderna vaccine. Now, two improvements for the Moderna vaccine, which separates it from the Pfizer vaccine. It has a shelf life at room temperature for 12 hours, that it is effective even if kept at room temperature for 12 hours. Nothing of this sort for the Pfizer vaccine. Then the vaccine, once produced, is effective for 30 days. 30 days is the shelf life of the vaccine. Pfizer vaccine, we do not know these details. So that is one part of the news. Then is the second part. What are the unknowns of this vaccine? Which is that first, the effectiveness life. That how effective. Let's say once I've taken the vaccine, or as per the article, 24,000 approximately people have been given 2 shots of the vaccine. But how long will the antibodies last? Till when will I need to get another shot to protect myself from COVID? So that effectiveness life of it is yet unknown. Then on the question of effectiveness, there is also the question of how effective it is for vulnerable groups such as old people, children, patients with other bodily risk, that already pre-existing bodily risk. So those kind of questions are not known yet. Then is whether the vaccine can help stop the spread. Now, this is a little technical. So, even if let's say that I have COVID-19, now because of vaccine, COVID will not be able to do fatal harm to me. But does that mean that it is stopping the spread of the virus? That once the virus is within me, I am not spreading it to another individual if I come in contact with them. That part is not yet known. So that becomes a huge question. That see, even if vaccine, then the question is we need to vaccinate everyone, and only then can we be assured that, oh, the pandemic is under control. So until then, we'll have to keep an eye. Any more updates, I will be there to help you out. Then is the news about Joe Biden discussing with the pharmaceutical companies who are developing the COVID-19 vaccine for process of vaccinization, that how will we go about giving it to so many people. So these discussions are going on. A statement stands out, and that's why I've picked up this news, that see, vaccine doesn't stop the pandemic, vaccinization does. So this makes important because see, even if let's say we have vaccines developed by numerous companies, numerous pharmaceutical companies, that doesn't mean that we have stopped the pandemic. It can only be stopped when there is vaccinization of the people who are under threat from COVID-19. So that becomes really important. Then moving on is the op-ed on the right hand side, fallen through the cracks. So specific facts from the article. First of all, that the employment rate of women. What is employment rate? First of all, employment rate is based on people who are willing to work and can work and are able to get work. So how many of those people who want to work and have the capacity and the capability to work are actually getting employed or getting work? In India, with women, that is, in rural India, that percentage has dropped from 2004 of 35.8% to now 26% only. And with urban women, that position has remained stagnant. That India has received high growth, our economy has doubled, but yet the number of women employed still remains same, 20%, which is really low, which is highlighted in the World Economic Forum's gender gap report. That becomes relevant for us. It's a point for your general knowledge. India stands 149th out of 153 countries measured in the journal. Also, this article states that today is the day which marks the 50th anniversary of a UN report titled Towards Equality, which was prepared by Committee on Status of Women in India. So 50 years ago, there was a report that states that see, we need to move towards equality. But you can realize that from this gap, how much equality have we actually gained. And then there is a starking fact to state that how much of work is still required for women to become equal. That in regards to household work during the pandemic, women are working 3 to 6 times more. Remember, 3 to 6 times more household work than men are doing. And this is a staggering fact. It tells us that, see, that perception of women being considered the homemaker and men being the breadwinner is still so rampant. And unless we address that, unless we actually empower the women, we cannot really improve their status in the society. That unless women are empowered on a socio-economic level, this gap between men and women, which is highlighted in our gap in the gender gap report, will not reduce. So it's part of everyone to work towards it, ensure. And this article highlights then how the COVID-19 pandemic has doubled down on women, that more and more women are losing their jobs in comparison to men, and that we need more than just laws. We still need a lot more to ensure that women join the labor force and then continue to remain in the labor force. That see, we have made progress with regards to women attaining education, but then beyond education attainment, there is still a gap of them being actually employed. And when they are employed, there is still a lot of risks that are associated, they are not protected, and that needs to be addressed. Now moving on, is the big news of the conflict behind Ethiopian government and the Tigray rebels. So as I told you, yesterday also there was a news article which stated 25,000 Ethiopians are fleeing to Sudan. Then there was another editorial on November 12 which had stated about the Ethiopian president, prime minister, of how he is brewing trouble. Now today I am going to explain this down for you in a very simpler terms, what this conflict is, a little bit of history behind it, what is happening and why it is happening. So, and you're free to put your doubts in the comment section once if you don't understand. So, Ethiopia is a country located in the Horn of Africa region, northeastern part of Africa. The population constitutes of 34% Oromos, 27% Amharas, and then 6% are Tigrays. So Ethiopia till 1991 was ruled by the military known as the junta. Now the junta were overthrown through a pseudo military campaign by militants. In those times the TPLF, Tigray People Liberation Front, came out as the leaders of overthrowing the junta. So junta was the bigger enemy, and then the militant organization TPLF came out as the leaders of leading the militants across Ethiopia to throw out the military rule. And through that, Tigray region's Meles Zenawi became the first prime minister. First, he became the president in 1991, and then he became the first elected prime minister in 1995. He established the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front, EPRDF, and that ruled the country till 2018. So, that is a overview of the history. Then what happened in between these times? As you can see at the center here, that Ethiopia is surrounded on the north with a very long border with Eritrea. On the left hand side is the country of Sudan. This region that is marked in different color is the region of Tigray, which is more populated by the Tigray community. Now, on the immediate south of this region is the Amhara's regional tribe or community that lives here. Now enters Abiy Ahmed. Abiy Ahmed enters Abiy Ahmed in 2018. He is a person of the Oromo community. Now, how did the power change happen, and what were the reasons why this was happening? So, TPLF has a sworn enemy, or they have sworn to be enemies with the Eritrean nationality, that they will not be at peace with these people of Eritrea. And then there was also a perception of marginalization and authoritarianism with the EPRDF's rule, that they were becoming authoritarian, and the majority community of Amharas and Oromos were becoming marginalized in the power structure. And so enters Abiy Ahmed. Abiy Ahmed in 2018 assumes the position of prime minister, establishes a prosperity party. All the constituents of the EPRDF minus TPLF along with his party form the prosperity party. Okay, the next step that Abiy Ahmed does is that he makes peace with Eritrea, sworn enemies of the TPLF. So they've been politically marginalized, and then their enemy has made peace with the country they were ruling, Eritrea. So that also upsets TPLF even more. Then enters the another risk that happens with regards to this crisis. So what do TPLF do, what do they do in between? TPLF as a political front makes itself more active on the militant front. So TPLF, despite being in power for so long, had continued its nature as a political cum militia group, a self-armed group. So Abiy Ahmed then has now decided that, see, we have peace in the country, we cannot go on doing this, that we still have a region that is armed and is not under the law of the land. So he decides that, see, I'm going to do a swift operation in this region and wipe out the militants and then put the area under control. That is where the problem starts. That, see, his intention is to take away power from the militants, and then the militants retaliate. The TPLF retaliates, it bombs Eritrea through rockets, and it also bombs the southern region of the Amharas. That becomes problematic because then there is crisis brewing. There is when violence happens, and the other thing that is also happening is that the TPLF is not just on war, trying to evoke war with Eritrea and stoke civil war within the country, reduce Abiy Ahmed's position. It is also getting support to do that from Sudan. As I told you, the map, this region still has a porous border with Sudan. That is how yesterday's news was 25,000 Ethiopians migrate towards Sudan. So this border becomes porous, and similar to how militancy is in Kashmir, that Kashmiri militants get all their support from Pakistan, and then the conflict, as you know, has been going on for 30 years since 1991. So exactly, this is now what is happening. There is concern that Abiy Ahmed's adventure in Tigray might fail. He might not be able to overpower the TPLF, and this region will then boil and cause violence in both Eritrea and Ethiopia, and then there will be a full-blown civil war in the country. So this is the conflict based on the community, and this is how it is unfolding. We will be keeping an eye on what eventually happens. So if you have any doubts with regards to this, if with regards to why TPLF is the nature in which it has become, or any other doubts with regards to this issue, feel free to put that down in the comment section. So that is it from me today. There is another concern that was highlighted in the comment section, that how do we go about reading, watching the series and then reading the newspaper or making notes. So my suggestion is that, see, open your e-paper or your newspaper while you are watching the videos. Eliminate the articles that I've stated are not relevant at all. Skip them while you are following me, because I do that in the first 2-3 minutes. Then when I pick up the important news, listen to me, go through them. Then if you have your doubts, put them in the comment section after you've read your things. So you'll be going back to the video, putting your comment section, and I believe that gives you a lot more perspective, because once you have understood what the article is about, you will be able to grasp it far more. So if you have any more doubts now with regards to this, feel free to put them down in the comment section. Thank you so much. Keep watching the series. Do subscribe and hit that bell icon if you haven't. Give a thumbs up to the video if you like it. Thank you so much. Keep watching. All the very best.